This is Dates and Mates with your host, Damona Hoffman.
Hello, lovers. Welcome to Dates and Mates. This is the place where we are going to demystify modern love. And I'm so excited that you have joined me today. Today's topic is an important one. We'll be talking to an expert, Sherry Gaba, who has written a book about love addiction. I know a lot of us love that feeling of falling in love, of being in the passionate throes of romance, but sometimes you can actually get addicted to that feeling, and it gets to the point where it's not healthy for you. So she'll be giving us some advice on how to overcome love addiction. Plus, we have headlines for you. We have some juicy ones. We'll talk about how online dating may be negatively affecting your mental health. While we're talking about love addiction, that's a good topic to discuss from the headlines, as well as millennial couples are now hesitating to get married. Why is that? We'll discuss in just a bit. Plus, we have sparks flying between hip-hop royalty. It's one of the guys on my list. You know the list, producer Jarvis.
Yes.
Well, I'm happy for him if he found love elsewhere, because it's probably not going to happen for us, but I'll let you know who it is in just a minute. Plus, we have questions from our listeners, including how to find love if you're African American and over 50, as well as what to do if you find out the man that you've been dating has put his hands on his previous woman. You see the ghost of Christmas future coming at you. Should you break up the relationship, or is there a way to make sure that you don't suffer the same fate? We'll talk about that in Technically Dating. But first, I love giving you guys a message at the top of the show now, and I want to talk to you today about intuition. And how important it is for you to use that in dating. As some of you guys know, Producer Jarvis, I'm kind of coming out of the psychic closet. In addition to being a dating coach, I'm also exploring psychic work and mediumship. And I've discovered that there is a correlation here with the other work that I'm doing. And when you use your gut and you tap into your intuition, it really helps you to navigate tricky dating and relationship situations. In fact, I had a client this week who told me of a date who waited 5 days in today's world to message her. This is not the 3-day swingers rule. This is like five days. And then finally he picked up the phone and called her. But by then she was not interested. And so she was asking me, is this the right thing? Is this justified? And I said, this is really a situation where you have to use your gut, because your intuition is telling you that you're not into this guy. Not just is this guy the right one for you, or does he respect you, but your gut is saying this guy is no good. So the next time that you are swiping on Tinder, instead of looking at how cute the pictures are, I want you to think about intuition. And I want you to get a feel for the energy of the person and ask yourself, which way does my gut tell me to swipe? Then don't second guess it. That's the other thing. Don't second guess it. What you hear in your mind or what you feel in your soul is usually the right thing from the beginning. So make sure that you're listening to that. You have all the answers inside. You know who you feel energetically pulled to. You know who your instincts tell you to run from, right? So if you trust that inner voice that has guided you all along to guide you towards your perfect match, just imagine what could be possible. All right, Producer Jarvis, it's time to jump into the headlines.
Dee's dating dish.
Well, dating could be something that's positive for your life, or it could be having a negative effect on your mental health. CNN just released an article on online dating being linked to depression. Turns out that the rejection you feel online 90% of the time, it stimulates the same part of the brain that processes physical pain. So according to this article, online dating is causing people to be more depressed. Men and women who use apps appear to have lower self-esteem than those who don't. And especially, sorry, Tinder friends, Tinder fans, Tinder users express more dissatisfaction with their bodies than non-users. And, we're talking about love addiction a little bit. Almost 1 in 6 singles express feeling addicted to the process of looking for a date. Now, for men, it was pretty unanimous. Almost all of the respondents said that they felt addicted. But here's what happened with the women. The women who got addicted felt burned out. 54% of the women were burned out with online dating. This is something that I see all of the time. But I really wonder if is it the online dating causing the depression, or is it the people that are prone to this behavior using that tool in a way that is detrimental to their mental health?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, producer Jarvis has decided that is the right answer. Because I mean, I've been a big fan of online dating since the dawn of time, pretty much. And that's the method I use to meet my husband, and many of my clients use that method as well. But here's the problem. Now the speed of online dating and dating apps has increased, and we're swiping without thinking. I was just talking about using your intuition when you're swiping. We're swiping so much that now it's not about the connection with the individuals. It's not about the relationship building. It's literally just about ego. It's just about ego. How many people can I get to like me, and how am I feeling? How are my endorphins being boosted by getting these likes and these right swipes and moving into the chat?
Mm-hmm. So we've taken kind of like real life and moved it over to social media. It sounds like the same thing that happens in because don't women? I've met so many women that at times have just taken a break. Like I'm just not dating anymore. This was before social media, right?
Right.
When have you ever heard a man say, "Oh, I'm taking a break from dating"?
That's true. Right. I have heard of men taking a break from having sex when they feel like it clouds their judgment. But yeah, you're right. And this is something I've recommended to my clients from the beginning, that when you get to the point of overwhelm with online dating and dating apps or dating in general, you do need to take a break. You do need to be able to sort of decompress and process that and come back to it when you're feeling fresh. And I'm sure Sherry Gaba will have lots of insights to share with us about that in just a little bit. But it turns out also millennial couples here are in no hurry to get hitched. According to Straits Times, millennials are now taking longer to get to know each other before they tie the knot. I was really shocked at this study because it looks like 25 to 34-year-olds on average knew each other for 6.5 years before marrying. And other age groups max out at 5. And I can tell you, when I was in that phase of pre-engagement, and I dated my husband for 3 years before we were engaged. And back then, it felt like an eternity. And every time one of our friends got engaged before us, I was like, what is going on? Why are we not engaged? It felt like it was interminable. And I cannot imagine going 6.5 years before marrying. But here's the thing. Marriage used to be the start of adult life. And now it's almost at the end, like everyone's saying, oh, I got to get all my stuff together. And as soon as I figure out my life, then I'll look for a mate. As soon as I get my finances in order, I get the job that I want, then I can start to think about dating. And it used to be you would look for a partner who can help you build the life that you want. So I find this very interesting that this is moving in a different direction. And even the study also said that half of those surveyed said a friends with benefits situation could evolve into long-term love, and did for them. 40% said that of a platonic friendship. So maybe the hangout date and the friends with benefits thing, I haven't been much of a fan of it in the past, but hey, maybe it could be leading you to long-term love. As long as you're not in a rush to get married, you can hang on for 6.5 years or more, just waiting to decide what's going to be next for your relationship. Well, there's a new celebrity relationship that I'm excited to share the news about. Maybe. This hasn't been 100% confirmed, but oh my goodness, Eminem and Nicki Minaj have been tap dancing around this issue for literally like 7 years. They've been throwing jabs at each other, like playful flirting over social media, on Twitter. And now, just this week, there was a concert in Boston where Eminem asked the audience if they thought that he should date Nicki Minaj. And of course, there was a resounding yes from the audience. And so he said, me too. And let's figure this ish out and figure out how to handle this publicly. So then that triggered Nicki Minaj to start talking about it. And people just flat out asked her, hey, are you dating Eminem? And she wrote back, yes. So I would say that if you say yes in social media, even if you guys have been playful and cheeky about it before, I think that means it's a yes. And so I'm just going to go ahead and claim them as a couple and say that I think this is a good match. The two of them are sort of hip hop royalty, and I think they're pretty cute together. I think they could really make this one work. Of course, there's so much drama when you have two celebrities together and two people who are also in the rap game, who are traveling around doing shows, and you have a lot of temptation on the road. You have a lot of factors that are working against the relationship working out, but I'll say that I, for one, am rooting for these two. What about you, Jarvis?
It would be an interesting pairing. They could probably make some good music.
Yeah, she said maybe our first date could be in the studio,
yes,
right?
Yes, I could see that.
Okay. Well, I'll take it either way. I'll take the good music. I'll take whatever else is good from the two of them.
But wait, Nicki is supposed to be dating Nas.
Not right now, apparently. I don't know. Because they were kind of cheeky about that.
Yeah, but they were seen out together. They were dating. For sure. And that wasn't that long ago.
Well, you got to stay up on the news because these celebrity relationship change like this, like that. So you got to keep it locked on Dates and Mates. We have Sherry Gaba joining us in just a little bit to talk about your love addiction. But first, these messages from our sponsor. So stick around. I'm your host, Damona Hoffman. We'll be back in just one moment. Whether you're single or in a relationship, one thing that you need to feel is sexy. And I know just as well as anyone that when you're carrying around a few extra pounds, sexy is the last thing that you feel, right? When you feel good about your body, others will feel good about being with you. So let me guess a couple of your excuses for working out and getting in shape. Let's see. Number 1, you hate sweaty, stinky gyms. Number 2, you don't have any cute workout clothes to wear. Number 3, you don't have time to work out. Now, I'm going to blow all of those excuses out of the water when I tell you that you can get fit on your schedule, wearing whatever the heck you want in the privacy of your own home. You, my friend, need to try Beachbody On Demand. And now fans of Dates and Mates can get all the Beachbody programs for $99 a year, 30 days risk-free. You can stream all of Beachbody's fitness programs and get the nutritional guides on 21-Day Fix, PiYo, Insanity, T25, P90X, P90X3, and more. I've been actually doing P90X3 myself, and I love the 30-minute format. It's so quick, and I know you've got 30 minutes. So you owe it to yourself to try the entire Beachbody On Demand system completely risk-free. Just click the link in the show notes or go to datesandmates.com and click the Beachbody banner to get started. Welcome back to Dates and Mates. I'm your host, Damona Hoffman, and the topic of the day is love addiction. I was just talking about online dating apps, Tinder, causing people to feel depressed from being online, and that up and down roller coaster. You guys know what I'm talking about, that up and down roller coaster of he likes me, he loves me not, he loves me, he loves me not. And it's really important to understand what is the root cause of this. Why are so many people craving these feelings of love and wanting to be in a relationship? And what are the factors that may make you more prone to having that sort of love addiction tendency? And what are the tools that you can use and the methods that you can use to overcome it? And I just want to clarify, a few weeks ago, we talked about sex addiction. And y'all, that is not the same thing. We're talking about love addiction, actually being addicted to the feeling of being in love. And it has a connection to trauma. It has a connection to social and your cultural background. And there are exercises that you can do to overcome this. So I'm really excited to get our guest on the video for you. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'm going to see if we can bring her in. I am. Let me tell you a little bit about her because she is a force in this field. Sherry Gaba is a psychotherapist, a life coach, and a certified recovery coach, specializing in individual, couples, family, and group psychotherapy. She is a private practitioner that also works with several high-caliber Malibu rehab centers, and she uses a wide variety of techniques to help clients overcome problems and long-term patterns. We talk a lot about long-term patterns on this show, and you do have the power to rewrite it if you have the right tools. Sherry just published her most recent book, The Marriage and Relationship Junkie. Yes, she used the word junkie because you are addicted, folks. The Marriage and Relationship Junkie, Kicking Your Addiction. That just came out in February. It's a best-selling book, and so I know there are a lot of people who are struggling with this as well. You have seen her on the hit TV show Celebrity Rehab and many other programs, and in just a moment, I'm hoping that you can see her live on Dates and Mates. Sherry Gaba, she will just be joining us in just a moment. We'll be getting her on the line. I was a huge fan of her work for a long time on Celebrity Rehab, also Sober House, and you've seen her on so many other programs, The Doctors. And so Sherry is an esteemed guest that we are glad to bring to you now. Please give big smooches to Sherry Gaba. Oh, I'm so glad we have you. I just lost your audio, and it looked like you were saying something really, really funny, and I missed it. I always miss the good stuff.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now, and I'm so excited that you're here. And this is such an important topic for people. And I'm mentioning at the top of the show that love addiction is a real thing, and especially now with dating apps. The speed of dating has increased. And so I'm sure you're seeing this in your practice. You're seeing more people that are addicted to love. So can you define how you describe love addiction?
So love addiction is really like any addiction. You still get that same adrenaline high. You still get that hormonal surge. You still get that fix when you don't have your drug, just like a drug addict would. But we call love addiction a lifestyle addiction. It's a process addiction. It's not a substance addiction. So it can be anything like food or sex or codependency or internet or gaming or spending or shopping. But of course, what we're talking about today is love addiction and relationship addiction and marriage addiction. So it's when your life has just become so unmanageable and so out of control that you almost can't breathe without that person in your life. There's just this terror. Oh my God, I have to have that person, or I have to have that relationship.
Yeah, that feeling of terror, like you said, when everyone's chasing this thing, everybody wants that relationship. But I know you have a quiz even on your website that helps people identify if they are a love addict. And one of the symptoms, you ask if people are dreaming of the romance that they see in movies. So maybe it's not our fault that we are craving this kind of romance. Is it about the societal factors that are putting that pressure on us?
You know, you're right. I mean, think of some of the movies that are out there. Like, well, some older movies would be like Fatal Attraction, but perhaps you can think of like the music that's out there. Half the music that's out there is codependent or love addiction, music. It's all about that wanting, that pining away. And, it kind of plays into that idea that we tend to want what's unavailable. There's this bad boy or bad girl sort of, idea that I want what I can't have. So, yes, I think media is a huge issue around it. I mean, just think of everything that we see in the media about celebrity couples, the whole, Prince, Meghan and Prince William, or not William, Prince Harry. I mean, that I wouldn't call that love addiction, but everything is hyped up around romance, romance, romance. I mean, it's almost like thinking about buying a bottle of wine, taking the wine home, opening up the cork, and that whole what's happening before we have that wine. It's the same thing with romance. I mean, some people are literally addicted to that new love feeling, and that's not really healthy love.
Oh yeah, I would even admit when I was online dating, I had maybe a little bit of that addiction. But I know some people, it's a little bit of the endorphins that you get from someone likes me. But there's a line between I'm enjoying this feeling and I have to have this feeling, right?
Well, I love that you're bringing up this internet dating because it's a huge issue. Think about this idea of ghosting, where people disappear. That plays into somebody's love addiction. They're only feeling as good as what's happening on the outside. So if somebody is ghosting them, or they're not getting the likes, or they're not getting picked, or whatever the social media app is, it kind of is that it brings up more of that terror. And if you don't have a strong internal system, a strong way of dealing with rejection per se, it's really not about you. It's just about the person. It's not you. You don't even know the person. But if you don't have a strong, quote, ego, sort of ego strength where you can really deal with that, it can be really crippling. So I think this whole internet dating app thing is making love addiction a much bigger issue.
Well, what about for the people who are already in a relationship? Could someone be a love addict and be in a relationship, and maybe it manifests differently when you have a partner?
I love that question. I actually was asked that the other day. And the way I see that is, if you're in a relationship and you're obsessed with that partner, you can't live without that partner, you're thinking about that partner all the time. I have been in that type of relationship. I was married to an alcoholic who kept relapsing. And so my whole thing in life was, I'm going to fix this person. So I was really more codependent on that person. But I would say it was a love addiction because I was pretty obsessed. I thought I'd be lost without this person. So my thing was, I'm going to get him well. I'm going to fix him. I'm going to get him sober. And of course, I was completely powerless over that. So I would say, yeah, you can be in a relationship and be obsessed with your partner.
What are some ways that you can heal from that feeling of obsession? I imagine it's different for people who are in relationships versus people who are chasing the relationship. Is it?
A lot of it can actually be a little bit of the same. I think the first step is that they're on your show today, Damona. They're actually consciously being aware of this subject right now at this moment. They're aware. They're making decisions to change. That's my dog in the background. Live radio does that. Really learning to stop looking for external solutions. Everything is really an inside job. So exploring, what am I afraid of? What am I so panic stricken about? What are my fears? Am I afraid I'm going to be alone forever? Am I afraid no one's going to want me? Am I afraid I'm too old? I'm in my 50s, and sometimes that kind of script comes up, that belief system where, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to find anybody at this age. So it's really looking at those beliefs. And then if you're in that phase of dating and you're meeting someone and you want to fall in love with that potential, forget it. That's when we're kind of dealing in that denial mode where we want someone to be what they're not. We're sort of in love with the delusion and the illusion of who someone is rather than who they are. So that's another issue, to get out of denial. And then examine, early childhood trauma issues. A lot of people that are love addicts, relationship, marriage addicts, like myself, had really early trauma. And so really exploring, how did that trauma affect me? And I can get more into that if you want me to.
I would love to talk about that a little bit more. I'm glad that your dog is doing such a great job protecting you.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
No, it's cool. This is what happens when we're live. That's why I love doing the Dates and Mates show live, because you never know what's going to happen. I would like to talk about that because I think some people may be going through life just saying oh, it's normal to go from relationship to relationship or to have these sort of feelings. And some of them may have experienced some of the trauma that you're referring to early in life, or there may be societal factors, social factors, family factors that are making them predisposed to these sort of behaviors and not even realize that they're a problem because it's what they've been accustomed to.
It's so true, Damona. You really well said. I couldn't have said it any better, but basically what would be the early trauma? Think about having parents that weren't there for you, feeling invisible. So you're always wanting something outside of yourself to give you that early bonding, let's say you were neglect, let's say you were abused, let's say you were, God forbid, molested, let's say your parents were addicts. You were invisible. You did not get what you needed. So you're always looking outside of yourself. I mean, really, love addiction, codependency, any addiction, it's trying to find the lost self. It's looking for the connection that you never got. I share often my story. I was a preemie baby, didn't have early bonding or attachment with my mother. Because I'm older, I'm in my 50s. And in those days, they thought, oh my God, you're going to get germs if your mother touched you. So there I was, this little baby in an incubator. And it just set me up for a lifetime of a lot of separation anxiety, a lot of abandonment issues. So that's where, this idea of wanting the bad boy is, I want what I can't have, because that is the script that I grew up with, in my early childhood.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that story. And I know a lot of people listening can probably relate to it and may not even realize what the source issue was. Yeah, I mean, you have to go all the way back to when you were a newborn, and even looking at some of the inherited trauma from your family could even be a factor in that. And I know you address a lot of these issues and give a lot of solutions in the Marriage and Relationship Junkie, Kicking Your Addiction. Can you give us just a couple of tips on treatment options? Because some people listening, they may not be able to work with you live. There, I know you have a lot more resources at sherrygaba.com, and they may get the book, but maybe they need some tools and techniques that they can take home and work with possibly a counselor in their area.
I mean, just the first step is awareness. There are meetings out there called Love and Sex Anonymous meetings. There's Codependent Anonymous meetings. Finding a really good therapist. If it's an issue around early trauma, I mean, really think about, where could this be coming from? Was I neglected? Was I abused? Do I need to really, uncover and discover those issues with a really great therapist? I don't think this is a situation where you're going to hire a dating coach, because, I think dating coaches are awesome. I do some relationship coaching. I think they have a place. And I think you first got to dig deep and find out what's going on, and then go to the next step of how to attract who you're looking for. So I think
for sure. Yeah, a lot of people will come to me for a dating strategy, like, how do I get more dates? And that's really what I do. Like, I teach you the process to be able to connect. But if you haven't done the self-work and you haven't identified what some of those patterns are, and you have some deep-seated trauma, like what you mentioned, that has to be addressed, we're not going to get very far. Or worse yet, you'll find a relationship that just repeats the same pattern again.
So you get clients sometimes where you can kind of tell, like, you're just not ready for that space yet, where you're ready to, like, how to attract somebody. You're sort of in the space where you need to work on those issues that are underneath all that, and that's why you keep picking the same type.
Right.
That's what you work with.
And you also work with affirmations, which I'm a big fan of. What are some positive affirmations that one can use to change the wiring of your brain?
So why don't we do those together? I'm going to say them and then you can repeat it. But I love this conversation that we're having, because I think it's so important that people understand nothing is an instant fix. Right. This stuff has to be worked through. So one affirmation would be, I am a lovable and valuable person.
I'm a lovable and valuable person.
I am deserving of a healthy partner.
I'm deserving of a healthy partner.
Who is capable of loving and respecting and honoring me as a person.
Who is capable of loving and respecting and honoring me as a person.
Perfect. Withdrawal will not last forever.
Withdrawal will not last forever.
My needs and wants are important.
My needs and wants are important.
All my experiences contribute to my growth.
All my experiences contribute to my growth.
You want more? I have more.
Oh, I think that's great. And I hope the people listening you can go back and replay this and do the affirmation yourself too. Say it with me, because when you do affirm positively, the kind of, it does change your brain, your mental. It's not some airy-fairy stuff.
Really works. There's actually scientific studies that show that it works. And if people want to learn more about this type of stuff, just go to my website, Sherry Gaba, SHERRY Gaba.com. They can learn more about whether or not they're a love addict by taking the quiz. They can pick up my book, The Marriage and Relationship Junkie, which is on Amazon. And then I just do a lot of blogging about the subject so that people can educate themselves. And then once they do the work, go out there, find Mr. or Mrs. Right, because I think it's great that there's dating coaches for that, and there's therapists for the stuff that's underneath all that.
Yeah, this is such great advice for people that may not even realize that they have this problem or are living in this pattern. And I really encourage everyone listening to go and check out this love addiction quiz, which is on sherrygaba.com, RRYGABA. You might be surprised by some of the questions that are there, y'all, and you might find out, oh my God, I'm a love addict and I didn't even know it. And you can also find out more about love addiction at, like she said, on Amazon, the Marriage and Relationship Junkie, Kicking Your Addiction. Sherry, I have so many questions from listeners. I know we're not going to get through them all today, but I would love for you to stick around and answer some of the questions that have come in to the Dates and Mates show.
And thank you for this platform, Damona. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving in to the Technically Dating segment.
Technically Dating.
Okay, Sherry, this first question comes to us from a listener who emailed me directly, and anyone could send me a question, Damona@DamonaHoffman.com, and your question could end up on a future show. This one comes to us from Audrey. She says, I'm a Black woman, 59 years old, a physician living in Chicago. I've never been married and haven't been on a date in about 20 years. She says, not exaggerating, in parentheses, except for, she said there's some that she did through a dating site that she paid for. She prefers to date Black men, but she says, I'm starting to realize that Black men, especially the professional ones, have left the building, Sherry. She says they seem to prefer white women. And she's asking what she can do, because she feels that she wants to keep her options open, but she's feeling like she needs to get out more, and she doesn't know what she can do to change her situation. She says, Sherry, that it feels like she's looking for a needle in a haystack. So I know there's a lot in here, and
I feel like that's your question, because a dating question. I mean, I don't know if there's something about the men she is picking, but it doesn't sound like she's really been out there. She hasn't really tried. So
I'm sure this is something that you see in your practice too, particularly with women over 50. If you don't get the immediate results, or it doesn't feel like dating in your 20s, then what do? We tend to just back up from the whole situation and say, oh, it's too hard, I'm just not going to do it.
In her case, I'm going to be honest, I think finding a great matchmaker would really work in her case, because she's a professional. She only has so much time during the day. I mean, I've been on these apps, this Bumble and Tinder and this and that, and it's overwhelming, and you don't know where to start, or there's not enough to pick from. So I think if she actually found an amazing matchmaker, I think she'd have a really good chance of finding exactly what she's looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. I found it interesting that she said she hasn't been on a date in 20 years, except for the ones that she paid for using a dating service, as if those aren't actual dates. And those are dates. Those are certainly dates, because you are paying for them, especially. Those should be
like online dating, or is she thinking?
She says she's not online dating, and I think she might be dabbling in it now after listening to this show. But I like to look at the reality of the situation. I like to look at statistics, and so I'm just going to talk to Audrey straight. Yes, there are fewer eligible Black men at your education level that are available to you in your age bracket. So that is a fact. I will not say it's a needle in a haystack, but I will say that more than likely she's never been married. She's probably going to end up looking at men that have been in a relationship before, maybe that have children from another relationship. So it's the reality is, when you get over a certain age, some of the things that when you were 20 might have been like, there's no way I can date a man with kids, or there's no way I can handle this situation, or there's no way I would date a person of a different background. Then they become more maybes, as long as you are clear on the value system that you're looking for in the partner. And
I love that, Damona.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking, like opening up her choices,
Right.
And a younger guy. Look, my 80-year-old mother has a 68-year-old boyfriend.
Hey.
Or maybe it doesn't need to be somebody older. And like, you're right, someone that is a single parent and someone from a different culture, population. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I love picturing your mom. I'm like, whew, get it, girl.
I think that there is a lot of that cougar dating that actually can really be successful.
It absolutely can. There's a lot that you can bring to the table for a man who is younger and is looking for someone that isn't going to play games with them and has their life together already.
What are you both bringing to the table? Maybe she is bringing the economic piece. Not that he's out just to be with her for that reason, but maybe there's a bargain that there's going to be made here. Like, I will help you at home. I will cook. I will do these things. You're the one that's the breadwinner. What's wrong with that? Why is it so important that we have to meet somebody that's just at our economic level or higher? I think it's
a big problem for a lot of women, not just older women, but for women that are out earning a lot of the men in their dating pool. You have to really think about what is important to you and how can you build the life that you want. And perhaps you want a partner who is more of more present in the household so that you can be more present in your
nurturing.
career.
I think, there's the conquerors,
sure.
And then there are I call them the flowery guys. Oh, and you're showing a little flower. You know what I mean? Like the flowery guy. Your needs. He's going to be nurturing. He's going to be romantic. He's going to be, he's going to be there for you. You're a professional. You need that. Or you're going to go out for the conqueror that's probably conquering like you're conquering and may not be giving you what you need because he's out there slaying dragons.
Exactly. Well, we have more questions that have come in from our partner app, the Techspert app, where you can get crowdsourced advice for your drama. And the best, most provocative questions end up here on the Dates and Mates show. So, Sherry, I have more questions for you. This one's a doozy. This comes to us from a young woman. She says, I just found out my boyfriend of 1 year put his hands on his ex while he was with her 2 times. And by put his hands, she means in an aggressive way, right? She says, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't even know if I want to be with someone like that. I confronted him and he said it was his ex and that he would never do that to me. But what if one day we cross paths on something and it triggers him to react that way?
That's very serious, Damona. I don't know if you have more to...
She says, I have too much self-respect for myself to go through that. So... Yeah. We do say that the best indicator of how someone will behave in the future is how they behaved in the past, but she hasn't seen any signs of this up until this point. Is this a red flag?
Well, actually, there may be some signs. Someone who actually has done physical abuse, there's usually red flags such as being overly controlling, verbal abuse, name calling, passive aggressive behavior. There may be some things that are going on that she's ignoring, and one of the hallmarks of love addiction is this denial piece. Like it might be right in front of her and she's not even seeing it because he's not actually laying a hand on her. So I think it's super, super important to really look at those red flags. And I think you're absolutely right on, Damona. Look at somebody's history. I used to love Dr. Laura. She'd say the 3 things you really want to pay close attention to is abuse, alcoholism, and cheating. Because there's probably a really good chance that stuff is going to repeat themselves. So have her look at her denial piece. Is she in love with the idea of him, who she thinks he is, or is it she's not really looking at the reality of who he is?
That's great advice. And I really, I
love that.
I hadn't thought of there might be signs there that she has not been looking for. And now that she knows that he has a pattern, she can look for it. But can people change? Maybe he did do some anger management therapy and maybe he has worked on himself in the last year.
Yeah, that's absolutely sure. If he's done some therapy, I have a couple that I see and he actually was physically abusive early in their marriage and he did anger management. And he's like, I always tell him he needs to write a book because he really is a poster board of someone that can change. The likeliness of it without anger management and therapy and working on his piece as to why he can't cope needs to be addressed. I don't think it's just what he says. I think that's lip service. I think it's actually the action that's going to make the difference.
For sure. Okay, this is kind of a weird question. This comes to us from a female. She's 24. She lives in Missouri. She says, my boyfriend likes to come in the bathroom when I shower or take a bath, and he literally will push the shower curtain back to watch me or sit down on the toilet seat and watch me take a bath. He won't take his eyes off me. And I told him that it makes me feel uncomfortable because he never talks, only stares at me. And when I'm done, he'll follow me out, watch me dry off and dress myself. And when I'm done, he'll even watch me do my hair and makeup. I'm a little scared and freaked out.
I think she should be. If she's asked him, please do not do that, it makes me feel unsafe or uncomfortable, and he's not listening to her, then he's crossing a boundary. And boundaries are really important. So she needs to figure out exactly what her boundary is. And if this guy is crossing it, she needs to take a look at, is this really what she wants in her life? Because I would find that to be really, quote, icky, icky, icky. if I didn't like that. I mean, if you like it and you like being looked at that way and it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, then you may be a match. But if he's not respecting what you're asking for, then he's crossing your boundaries. And you know what? He may cross other boundaries in the future.
Exactly. Yes. And I think the key is that she expressed how she felt, and he didn't pay attention to that. And he didn't listen. So the biggest problem that I'm seeing in dating coaching clients is that people are not really communicating anymore, and people are afraid to express how they really feel because, we're just expressing over text, and the text doesn't have the emotion. But when we really sit down to talk to someone, that's when the real stuff comes out. And so it sounds like she did try to express that to him, and he still didn't listen to her. So
you kind of look at why is it that she's not, I mean, maybe she's on her way to creating this boundary and going to move on, but what is it that happened in her life in the past that her boundaries may be very loose? She's like, okay, I really want to say no, but I guess I'm going to say yes. I mean, what happened to her that she's not able to say, this is a deal breaker. I'm sorry, you keep crossing my boundary. I'm not okay with that, because you can be sure this is not the only boundary that he's crossing.
Oh, for sure. Okay, one more question. This is from a female. She's 28. She says, if you went through your husband's phone and saw a dick pic that you've never seen before, among some other things. This is his own dick pic of his own dick. This is like an Anthony Weiner. How would you handle it? She said, I saw him messaging and talking to other girls. I also screenshot everything and sent it to my phone. She's doing the detective work and building a case for herself. But just to complicate things, I know this isn't a reason to stay together, Sherry, but she says they also have a 1-year-old. So what do you do? How can I handle this maturely? She's 28 years old. She's a grown-up in a grown-up situation. What recommendation would you give to her?
Yeah, he sounds like a sex addict, and he probably needs some kind of program around sex addiction, maybe Sex and Love Addict Anonymous meetings, finding a really good therapist. But this needs to be addressed because he's obviously looking outside of himself for validation, and he may be even acting out on those texting. He may be seeing those people in person. I think texting those types of things is an emotional affair. It is cheating, 100%. So because she has a 1-year-old, I definitely would say, get him into recovery. Also, she needs to get into recovery. There's actually programs, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but for the partners of sex addicts. So I'm sure she Googled 12-step program for partners of sex addicts. She would find really good books on the subject. Patrick Carnes is a great sex addiction author. He's got all kinds of stuff around this subject, but really educate herself, because I think this is a bigger problem it's a big problem. He's actually probably has a sex addiction.
And I know, Sherry Gaba, you deal a lot with addiction. That is the thing that you're most known for. What happens when you tell someone, I think you're a sex addict, and they're like, no, I don't have a problem?
Okay, well, then it gets back to boundaries. I'm really uncomfortable with what I saw on your phone. Here it is. I screenshot it. This is what's going on. This is not okay. We can either go to a therapist together, and then hopefully this therapist, if this therapist understands sex addiction, will lead him to his own program of recovery. But it goes back to boundaries. Like, what is it about you that you can't say no? Like, this is not okay. This is a deal breaker for me. If you don't get help for this problem, I'm not sticking around. I
think there's something to be said also for young moms that are in the situation and that have the kid that they're worrying about and thinking, well, this will disrupt their whole life. If we go to counseling, or if we break up, what will happen to the kid? But I don't know about you. I would not want to raise a kid in that environment.
No, I think the disruption will be even greater if she sticks around with someone who doesn't get help. I mean, he could be bringing home disease. If he's actually cheating, he could be bringing home diseases. He could be exposing her to some really risky things that will be even more disruptive for her and her child. So I'm just saying, again, I'm going to talk about those two things again. Get out of your denial. Something is definitely happening here, and learn to have really strong boundaries.
That's great advice. And I know you have so much more advice at sherrygaba.com, SHERRYGABA.com. And everyone listening should take the love addiction quiz, because they may be sitting here in denial themselves and they may not even realize what the symptoms are. And if they have a problem, it's important for them to get help from a counselor like you or someone else in their area.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And your book, The Marriage and Relationship Junkie, Kicking Your Addiction, is available on Amazon. So everybody can get that. Everybody can learn something from this book. And I'm so glad that you made time out of your busy schedule to come on the Dates and Mates show and talk to us about love addiction. Thank you, Sherry.
Damona. Thank you for what you're doing out there to support women and men, I suppose, and having me on your show today.
Thank you. Yes, we are trying to spread the love here on Dates and Mates. The show's not over, though. We have one more segment for you because, sometimes I get sort of worked up about things and I have to just talk to you about it on Dates and Mates. So, producer Jarvis, if you could put 60 seconds on the clock, I've got to talk to you about complainers. So lately I've been tuned in to the negative messages that are going out in the world, and I'm finding it a little bit overwhelming. It's coming from close friends. It's coming from family members. It's coming from people that are in the conscious community. And I know many of us are upset by things happening in our country and in the world. But when you complain, when you focus negative energy towards it, what you're really doing is giving it power. The more you fixate on something negative, whether it's your lack of a relationship or your dissatisfaction with your partner, injustice in the world, anything that makes you grit your teeth and gives you that spiritual sock in the gut, the more you focus on it, the bigger it will become. Can you allow yourself to feel the dissatisfaction and disappointment and then release it? That's the difference between those who are stuck in a pattern, repeating bad relationship after bad relationship, who are chasing the idea of a perfect relationship without ever being able to settle in where you are. Instead of complaining, accept what is, retain the lesson, release what doesn't serve you, and then let go. That's our show for today. If you have a question, please email me, Damona@DamonaHoffman.com. We have pics and quotes and lots of goodies from the show on my Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter @Damona Hoffman. And don't forget to check out Beachbody.com, where you can get 30 days free. We have a special link that you can click through datesandmates.com. And don't forget to download the Techspert app. And you could dole out some advice of your own. Be your own Damona Hoffman. Be your own Dates and Mates. And then you can see which questions end up on a future Dates and Mates show. I will see you next week when my guest will be Samantha Burns, who will be talking about her new book called Breaking Up and Bouncing Back. Thanks so much for joining. Until next week, I wish you happy dating.